There's mud on everything. There's mud, some on my face too. But yeah, the sun's not shining, so I'm not gonna get a sunburn. I can't be a redneck, so I'm a mudneck, I guess. According to some Googling I was doing last night, I am coming out of the high and dry, fertile land of the Great Plains, where it's mostly treeless and hilly and wide open. And I'm coming into the lower Missouri, the more eastern part that's humid and there's more woodlands. And I can notice the difference just with the last couple of days coming off of Francis Case and now going forward on the river proper. It does look like a different landscape, or at least a changing landscape. And it gives me hope that there's trees, because that means that I will probably be able to have fires more reliably every night, instead of the situation I was in before, where sticks were kind of hard to come by. Also worth mentioning is that this change is taking place in the state of Nebraska. This side of the river behind me, these reddish rocks and the trees in between them are in Nebraska. And the other side of the river, that the river bottoms with the cottonwood forest on it and the grasses and corn, that is South Dakota. This is what I mean by mudneck. See my boots? Look at this. And all I have to do is walk around a couple steps, and then we get some more. I've got fall coming in and birds flying over me south. I think they got hit by the frost the other night, and they're like, ooh, we're going to Florida. And I can't say I blame them, because I'm going there too. I just, by the time I get there, they'll probably be headed back. And it was blowing against me the whole time. I stopped paddling and I started scooting backwards. I was like, God, I thought we were past this. I didn't know we were doing this anymore. Scooting backwards in a headwind. So some of the noodles are burned together. There's a huge clump of uncooked noodles. And then when I poured in the seasoning, I used the wrong side of the lid. So just dumped a huge load of seasoning in there. And now I'm going to add a pack of lunch meat to it, because why not, you know? And I've learned a lot about cooking since I've been out here. Well, I've learned one thing, and that is that I need a wife. My first camp in Nebraska last night went all right. I had a little fire back there, and going into my last lake of this trip, the Lewis and Clark Lake. It's not terribly big. It's still a lake, though. I'm going to try and get across it before the wind really whips itself into a fury this afternoon. Paddling through another bird migration site. They're all zipping over my head right now. It's really neat. I'm staying close to shore so I can really get a close look at them. And because there's some wind kicking up from the south. Okay, this is insane. This rock face that broke off is in the exact shape of the state of Nebraska. Look at that. I mean, it's a cool rock and all, but it's the exact shape. Amazing. Because I'm fighting the wind, of course. Of course, it wasn't going to be easy to get off of the last lake. Autumn is in its full color, and there's more humidity down here. This region also gets more rainfall per year. Pretty soon, I'm going to pass my final Sioux Indian reservation. There's been quite a few. You know, the Sioux Indians were obviously dominant all over the Great Plains, and quite a few still populate that region. And as I get further east, I will be leaving their area and going into something quite different. I'm definitely going to enjoy the shade, color, fuel, and protection of all these wonderful hardwoods behind me, though, going forward. Especially, I'm going to be still in some pretty hilly country for a while, probably into Missouri. I'm going to be into some hilly country, as beside this river and in this river valley, there are bluffs and rocks and even some places where there's still stony bottoms, unlike the Mississippi, which is just low-lying, humid, kind of high rainfall woodlands without a stone in the whole valley. So very different from what I experienced on the river last year, and still quite impressive to look at, if not for all these darn lakes. which I'm almost done with. Chuck was kind enough to host me last night. He gave me a bunch of those military MREs, meals ready to eat. Maybe I can just eat 8 MREs and skip the next town. We stayed up and visited till late last night, and I stayed up a little later than that still when he went into the house. And now it's the next morning. I'm getting ready to go. Good family friend and her daughter mailed me these 2 scarves that they knitted together. This just really soft wool scarves, so I'll be getting into those in the winter. Got electrolytes for staying hydrated, a bunch of this mount stuff, a paddle leash, and the mount stuff is for, this just blew me away, a camera. Now, I lost mine with the canoe, and I wasn't going to replace it, but she didn't tell me. She just went ahead and sent one here. And now I'm going to have one going forward. Waterproof camera. I don't have to risk my phone anymore. It's very generous and over the top. And yeah, I have the best girlfriend, Dottie girl. Still paddling upwind, but who cares? Finally have some current under me. Wind or not, rain or not. I'm done with the lakes. I'm moving forward. It's kind of an odd paradox with this river. When you have the best scenery on this place, just the beautiful bluffs and hills and the minerals in the walls and the vast vistas of the Great Plains, you don't have much of a river. You're on a lake the whole time. And now I've come into the more humid eastern lowlands, much lower elevation, different biome down here, and there's not so much to look at in the rocks, in the vistas, in the whatever, because it's a woodland, and I like the trees and everything. So if you're into forests, then there is something to look at, but there's not those walls of rocks and those long miles and miles of wide open prairie when you climb one of the hills. So it is interesting that now that I have an excellent river, that there's not much to look at, but when I had an awful river and could barely go anywhere, there was everything to look at. So I'm just thinking about that today. Paddling again at night, this time on a river instead of a lake. Can't really be helped. The days get shorter and shorter. I'm losing 15 minutes of daylight per week, roughly. And I gotta make the miles. Okay, now that I'm stopped, first things first, I set up my tent. And then I've got my MRE warming up. This is one Chuck gave me. And then I put electrolytes in my water bottles for tomorrow and filled up my coffee thing with water. Then I'm going to make instant coffee tomorrow. And then I'm just setting aside like the rain gear and stuff that I'm going to need for tomorrow's weather. The whole idea is that when I get up in the morning, I don't have to do a bunch of stuff. I can just kind of grab something to eat and then get going. I'll have all my snacks packed and I'll have my water all portioned out, filtered or whatever, and I can just get paddling right away. Someone from the community, he actually has paddled the river 3 times, reached out and offered to send me some foul weather gear, and it got there a day after I left, and Chuck offered to drive it out to the boat ramp where I'm camped, so I'm walking up to the road to meet him, and he's very, very generously offered to drive it out, even out here in the dark and everything. So I'm going to get to see Chuck one more time. He's a great guy. I really enjoy his company. And
double bagged already.
Oh, sweet.
They're sealed.
Look at that. Not doing anything, and I'm actually scooting along. So grateful to be on the river now. Means I'm 750 miles from St. Louis, the end of this river, and where I'll be joining in the confluence of the Mississippi. That's the first mile marker I've seen. Hopefully there's more, maybe one every 5 miles. Kind of give me something to look forward to, seeing a blue sign. I don't know, but I just saw that one, checked the map, and it is true. This is mile 750. From that tower, a man could stand in Nebraska, and look out and see South Dakota, where I am right now, and Iowa. So it's the 3-state viewing point or something like that, which means I'm almost out of the Dakotas. I'm so close to being to Iowa and being done with the worst state on this river. Here is the confluence of the Big Sioux River and the Missouri River. That point of land marks the very end of South Dakota. And now that I passed this water, that means I'm out of the worst state on the Missouri River and into Iowa. And we'll see what Iowa brings, but this is the end of it for me, for South Dakota. My goal was to get out by Halloween, and I've beaten that by a couple of days. I'm gonna try and keep that momentum going, but goodbye, South Dakota. Next time I'm here, I'll bring a kite so I have something to do. Very obviously a storm coming to the area, and I'm stopping early in consideration of that. But this is my first time stopping before sunset in a while, so maybe a little treat for my first night in Iowa. I haven't been in this state since I was on the river on the other side of the state, the Mississippi, and I loved it over there. So we'll see how it goes this time. The rain did come as expected, so now I'm kind of wrapping things up here and getting my kit ready for tomorrow. So this is something new I'm trying. It was actually a gift from another paddler. Same with the jacket that I'm wearing, the rain jacket. It's cover the cockpit at night when it's raining and stuff. My alarm is going off outside, in a phone, in a dry bag. This is how I get up every morning so that I'm not tempted to sleep in, so I'm gonna go out there right now. This is the so-called Whitting Lighthouse, but whoever named this place has no conception of weight. I tried to pick it up. It's not light at all. This piece of junk, I couldn't budge it an inch. So I'm leaving. Massive disappointment with this so-called lighthouse. I'm getting back on the river. These rocks, or revetments, are part of the effort to channelize the river, and I can see the old effort over there with those posts, so I'm guessing it used to be a wooden works alongside the river. But I always feel the fastest when I'm closest to the side that's been artificially channelized, so I hug the shore pretty close to get the most out of the current in these areas. This is the first commercial vessel operation that I've seen on this river, but definitely not the first I've ever seen. I expect to see a lot more of these going forward, and as the river gets bigger and I come into some bigger cities as well. I'm at 30 and some change miles for the day, and the sun has made its first appearance in a while. And I'm hoping it sticks around for a bit. I'm gonna get this jacket off now that it's warmer and keep going. "47 miles now. Just getting done taking a break under this maple tree with its colors changing. Not a bad day. Good current. A little cloudy and cold, but I am gonna try and make 50 or 50 plus. If the sun cooperates, then a little more. Pretty foggy conditions out here on the river, so still foggy fog, but I don't want to sit it out. I can see the bank clear enough, so as long as I hug close to that, then I think I'll be all right. Omaha today, if I make good mileage. But not a bad day for it, honestly. Could be a little warmer. Pretty chilly, cold fingertips and stuff, but I'm getting it done. Once the fog cleared, I had plenty to look at. Over my head, there were the bridges, the airplanes landing at the airport in Omaha International, and then the birds, of course, migrating south. This group of blackbirds, which I don't have a name for, and then a group of pelicans. You don't often think about there being pelicans in places like North Dakota and Montana, but I've been seeing them every day of this trip right from the start. Definitely the largest city on this trip so far, Omaha, is right behind me. And I've already seen a few signs of hope of other members of my community, the homeless community, camped alongside the Missouri River banks as I get closer and closer to town. There's Native Americans, fishermen, drifters, and I'll find a spot tonight. It gives me hope. There's plenty of real estate on the riverfront that doesn't already have an encampment on it, and I can be that guy to establish one. I'm gonna go through the city, and it might look like there's plenty of daylight left, but that sun drops quick this time of year, Jack. It's been a nice warm day, very welcome, and I'm actually getting to a part where the leaves aren't fully yellow yet, so I must have really dropped some latitude these last couple of days, because it still feels like early fall down here. And hopefully I can just kind of ride that wave all the way to the south. A couple bridges of personal significance I crossed under today. The first was US 6, which is the road that Jack Kerouac travels in his book On the Road, one that made me want to travel more. And then the second was Interstate 80, which I spent a lot of time on as a truck driver. And being near it always feels like coming back to a familiar place, because I've crossed this river many times at this very spot, and I've gone every bit of this Interstate 80 all over the country. Well, I managed to do it right behind some industry on the other side of the river, right on the Nebraska side, and add to the less informed part of the Omaha skyline. Yeah, I waited till sunrise today, which maybe was kind of weak, but everything is frozen at the moment. I still have some fluid in the water bottles, but I have a pretty decent layer of frost on everything else. Happy Halloween to those of you that celebrate it. Norm keeps looking out for me. He's the guy who is like the authority on all things Missouri River paddler, and I send him my coordinates every night through a GPS, and he's like, oh, you're so close to these folks who live on the river, and he put me in touch with them. She just called me and said like, oh, we're at this river mile. I'm like, that's actually right around where I was planning to stop tonight. So maybe if I don't miss their dock, I can get a shower tonight. Haven't taken one since Bismarck. I mean, I fell in the lake, which to me counts, but to people who live in buildings doesn't count. I expect this will be the first of many towboats and commercial shipping operations that I see from here to New Orleans. The autumn is getting on quite nicely too, although it seems I'm at the front of the crest where the leaves are really changing and the colder weather is still a decent ways behind me. I made it to Nebraska City, where Pam and Jody have their riverfront shack, and he took me around town mostly to get groceries from Walmart, and then showed me around a little bit, and then we went back and visited at their house for a while, and I finally got that shower, although I didn't get any footage of when we were visiting because all my stuff was charging. The Riverside Shack, no running water or electricity, with 2 big windows right on the Missouri, is the kind of place I can see myself living and dying very peacefully. It had a wood burner, which I took full advantage of, and then an easy chair with a cardboard box full of paperback books, too. All that to say it was paradise. I also saw my first towboat operating on the river right when Pam and Jody dropped me off and were showing me around. This guy was headed north, so I'll likely see him coming back the other way, too, although I'm not totally sure about that. Pirate flag there, and he said the shack's been flooded twice, been picked up, carried away, put back, and there's the water line from where it was flooded before. So it's not year-round inhabited, but it's enough for a drifter to stay in, and I guess tonight it's all mine. I signed the ceiling saying when I stayed here and stuff, as many other people have signed the walls. But this place floods, so maybe mine will be the last to wash away. I'm gonna head to bed now. Even after a late start, I went ahead paddling all day long and even into the sunset and evening a little bit so that I could get to Rouleau, Nebraska, which is right down there at the southeast tip of the state. So it would be my last stop in the state, at least on this journey. All right, I'm right near the town of Rouleau, which is where I wanted to get to tonight. But I can't really get to the town from here for church tomorrow because there's a fence. I mean, I guess I could climb it, but I really don't want to be trespassing. So you can't see it, but there's the bridge over there, and I could use this beach to camp on, but I don't know how I'd get to town in the morning. So I think I'm gonna look on the map and see if I find something else. I pulled my kayak up the creek a little bit, so it's kind of hidden in the brush and the mud. So I don't think people will go down there and get dirty and muddy and brushy to pull it out. And I've got my tent all set up for the night. Squatting in the park tonight, and check this out. I set it up and then had dinner, and look, it's already frozen. So after dark, we're a good deal into the frosty weather, and I did have some heavy dew last night, or the night before last, on my tent, and it's all frozen now. Kind of neat. Some ice and stuff on it. I'm gonna go to church right now on this beautiful Sunday morning. 3rd of November, I think. I don't know. And watch these birds migrate on my walk over there. Pack up the tent and roll out. The saloon had a buffet. Obviously, I got some coffee to go with it, and then treated myself to 3 plates of food because I haven't had food this good in a while. And although I usually don't go to the expense of eating out, I thought it was okay because it was my last stop in Nebraska anyway. Iowa and Nebraska weren't easy, but I can't lie. They were a lot easier than the Dakotas and Montana. Without a question, a beautiful riverscape, but nowhere near the kind of scenery I was seeing on the lakes. I'll trade it though. I'm okay with seeing repetitive and maybe normal scenery now, if that means that I don't have to paddle through the wind and waves of the lakes to the north and to the west of me. Nebraska, it's been real. It's been muddy, and I'm in Kansas now, going south as far as I can every day, some 40 plus miles, and it feels like I'm getting closer and closer to the end every night.